Dankie Heinz, thank you so much. It is so lekker to be back here again. Please forgive me for my Coke Zero. All the health nuts, you can give me nuts later. For now, I have Coke Zero. And Coke Zero does me well, obviously. Nee? Ja. Okay. Are you happy to be here? I'm so happy to be here. I've been here since Tuesday, and it's been raining all the time. I hate the weather in Cape Town. I never want to live here. I never, ever want to live here. You people don't know how to drive. You really don't know how to drive. Really, you don't? Yeah. You are slow. You're extremely slow. You are so laid back. I wanted to exchange something for my daughter yesterday at Woolworths, and it took me forever because they couldn't figure out which tool has cash and how to do that. And I was like, oh, Estrie. My liefste vriendin, jou erk. Oh, how I love that woman. For those of you who don't know, this is like my heart's, this is just my borsluis. Sy sit vas op plekke waar niemand anders vas sit nie. Ja, tussen my boude as dit moet. Sy sit daar vas, laat ek jou sê. Ja, okay. And she's the one who told me this line. Most of you have listened to my stuff, and I've been in Wiid a lot of the times because of this, because of her, actually. This is me blame shifting. Yeah, not taking accountability of anything for what I've said. This is her. This is the Vredendal Nomakwalandse manier. She said, Niggie, die vlees is 'n bedrieglike eter. Die ding wil lieg en steel en skinder en dan raak hy nog lus ook. Die vlees is 'n bedrieglike eter. Ja. So the first time I said that on Facebook, somebody wrote to me and they said in the comment, they said, eter is 'n lelike woord. And I said, well, I don't know. But it's so lekker om die oor. Eter. All right. So, ek tog eter is ietsie van 'n wond. Isn't it? Ja. Bedrieglike eter. So, I have the privilege of doing the first part of the Real Conference on restoring daughters and equipping women. I've been fired from talking to wives. I've been fired. They said, no, Gretha, obviously your tips don't work. So, I mean, the proof is in the pudding, so jy sal nie weer oor die huwelik praat nie. You have been fired. All right. Jou kinders is glad nie lekker nie, so you can't speak about motherhood either. We'll just give that to her later. But the lekker part about speaking on the topic of daughters and women is that it will be all of you. Because all of you are a daughter of someone. And all of you are a woman. So I've got the lekker part. Because a letters part is like, well, ek's nie 'n ma nie, kan ek huis toe gaan? No, you can't. Because you never know. You never know. And the other thing is that when the Spirit imparts something into your spirit, it's not necessarily for you, but it's for the kingdom. So maybe a letters, the wife part and the motherhood part is not for you specifically, but it's for those of you who are going to minister out there to somebody in the kingdom. All right. So here's the thing. This year I've been doing a course with women on women of the Bible. I don't know how many of you are enrolled in it. How many of you are doing the Women of the Bible with me? Somerset Wes is stadig, so julle sal seker volgende jaar inskryf vir 2023 sinne, but welcome anyway. it's just like a 20, 25 minute every week that I'm just getting to your sitkamer and I just share something about a woman in the Bible. And the one thing that I've realized, and in the Old Testament, women were really worthless. I've been angry at the Lord so many times this year on working through the women of the Bible. I wanted to know, Lord, hoekom het jy nie vir Abraham 'n snotklap gegee nie? Because he was a pisang. I mean, literally disregarding his wife, here is my sissy, to cover his own butt. Literally going to somebody like Hagar and say, okay, Hagar, weet jy wat, jy het nie 'n sê hier nie, maar ek gaan jou net gou misbruik, want my vrou soek 'n kind. You don't have a say. I've been through so many women in the Bible this year, and I've been angry at God. And there were parts that I couldn't understand. And then I realized that the one thing that we must learn about the kingdom is God is always right. And he's always righteous. And he's always holy. And he's always fair. But sometimes people get it wrong. They miss the mark. And then we are the collateral damage of what they choose. We become the collateral damage of that. So I had to say, sorry, God, I know that this wasn't you, it was Abraham. And it wasn't you, it was Jacob. And it wasn't you, it was Isaac. And it wasn't you, it was whoever. I think the story that distraught me, it had me distraught, is the book of Judges. If I had a choice, I would just take the book of Judges out of the Bible. That is like serial killer vibes. Daai is dus af van die pad af. Dit is just the people were so far from God. Dit is mal. So there was this one woman, I just want to share with you, for those of you who don't know it, because some of you don't read the Old Testament, want jy wil nie al die konings se name lees, en hierdie en die seun, wat is die seun van daar, wat is die seun van die, and you don't know how to pronounce the names. Rehoboam, Shabahad, Josaphat, Josahafat. So you just miss it. And then when you get to like Numbers and Leviticus and whatever, it's like give him 12 doves and give him soveel skape en daai gee hom groente en daai nog 12 duwe en nog 12 duwe en we actually didn't need Noah because everything was destroyed in an offering. So the thing is, there was this one, I just want to share the story with you quickly. You can go read it in Judges, I think it's Judges 19, 20-ish, Rigters, for those of you who are reading Afrikaans Bible. And it's called the Levites' concubine, sy byvrou. Okay? So this Levite has guests, all right? And then men of the town in which he lived came to his house to want to have sex with the men inside. Sodom and Gomorrah van vooraf. Okay? So what this pisang does is he says, please don't have sex with my guests. Rather take my byvrou. Verstaan jy, die Levite is one of my guests. Vat sy byvrou and take my daughter. Because she's still a virgin. Just take her. And then the Levite's wife is raped, and it literally says it. It spells it out in the word. She was raped and abused throughout the night by all the men, and the next morning, he found his wife, his concubine, on the threshold, and he told her, get up, we need to go. Poepel. And then, sorry, pisang. And then, literally, he realized that she died. And he put her on his donkey and he took her to the next town, back to his town. And then he cut her body up into 12 pieces, sending it to the different tribes of Israel to provoke them into war. Vir wat hierdie mans durf doen het aan Israel. I'm like, what? Dit is so CSI. Dit is soos FBI. So we found a hand there and found a body there. This is for FBI begin het. This is for NCIS begin het. In the book of Judges. All right, for those of you who don't know. Dis waar daai stories begin het. Okay? So women were so disregarded. Women were good for only two things. To have an offspring, to be a mom, give me kids. All right? And just look after me, cook and whatever. And I know that some of you are still stuck with an Abraham like that. Elke oggend sê vir jou, wat eet ons vanaand? 10:00 in die aand, dan vra hy vir jou, slaap jy? It's like still the same thing. All right. So, I want to get to daughters in the Bible, which I want to quickly share with you. But first, I want to tell you, I don't know how many of you have had some teaching on what it is to be a daughter of God or to have an orphan spirit. Orphan spirit means you feel that you don't belong. You struggle to connect to God. With your mind, you know He's God. With your mind, you know He's your Father. But you don't feel like His daughter. And you misunderstand God, and you feel neglected. And part of having an orphan spirit is that you will have certain characteristics in your spiritual journey, desperately seeking to belong, like real orphans. I don't know how many of you have worked with orphanages, have worked with those kids. I remember vividly, I've been to Bethlehem in the Free State, and there was this one little girl, and I don't want to break your heart early in the morning, but there was this one little girl. When I got into my car, I went there to speak to the girls about puberty and growing up and hygiene and just looking after your body and whatever. And as I got to my car, there was this little girl, about 3-4 years old, with a little knitted teddy bear. And she stood there and she said, Tannie, sal Tannie my mama wees? Orphan, please take me home. I want to have my own room. I want someone that I can call mom, not only Tannie. Because I've got a lot of Tannies looking after me, but I don't have a mother. That's orphan spirit. Looking out for who will care for me, who will notice me, who will see me. Always getting the scrapes of someone. Never having the luxury of going to the mall and picking your own clothes. It's always like it's a little hand-me-down. It's an orphan. It's like I'm waiting to see where I will go for the holiday, where they will send me to. Orphan spirit. And some of you might be struggling with an orphan spirit, not realizing that you are a daughter of God. If you know Jesus personally, and if you have chosen Him not only as your Savior, as your Lord, you are in His inheritance. You are in His bloodline. You are a daughter. But if you struggle with an orphan spirit, then you don't know what it means to be a daughter. The other day, my one daughter, there's a lot of daughters in this sentence, but I've been blessed with 4 daughters and a granddaughter, a lot of estrogen in my family, and no man, nowhere. And Gretha, date jy al? Nee. Gretha, sal jy weer trou? Ek weet nog nie of die Here sê ek mag nie. Literally. Okay, I'm still struggling with that. I'm still trying to find the answer. I've been back and forth about that. Because if I take the word, and I don't want to take the word too literal and only see the religious side, but I want to understand covenant, and I don't want to step onto any toes here today. But I've read it, and I've tried to figure out. And then it said, if a wife if her husband cheats on her, she's allowed to divorce him, which I did. But she's not allowed to get married again until that very husband dies. Because until he dies, she will be in covenant with him. So I have bad news for Francis' new wife. Sorry, nee. And it puts me in an awkward position. Should I pray for Francois to die? It really puts me in an awkward position. All right, but anyway. So my one daughter came to me this week and she said, Mama, I stood here, not this, yeah, it was this week, just before I came here. And she said, it was similar to this morning, load shedding and whatever. She said, Mama, I had to dry my hair, and I asked Jesus, please just let Eskom drop the electricity. Just give me like 1 minute, please. Just give me like 1 minute more. I just quickly want to dry my hair. And she said, Mom, and God said, why don't you ask for 10? Why do you ask only for 1? If I can give you 10. And she said, Mom, in that split second, I realized that there's still a little bit of orphan spirit in me. There's a little bit where I think, Lord, if I'm not being too much trouble, and if you could be kind enough to make time for me, kind of. And if you're not going to be angry at me for asking, could I please just get a little scrape? Could I just get 1 minute more? And God says, but you are my daughter. I can give you 10. What do you need? What do you need? And that's the mindset of orphan spirit. Okay. So I don't want to run through the orphan spirit symptoms, but I'm just going to give you a few. Because if you have an orphan spirit, maybe you're going to recognize yourself. And it's good to recognize if you struggle with an orphan spirit, because I know that there's a lot of orphan spirit still in me. I know it. And I constantly have to go back to daughtership, to sonship, to saying, okay, I have kingship. Gretha, work on your mind, work on your mindset, work on what your perception about God is. How many of you have felt you don't want to bother God with stupid stuff? How many of you have had that? Hier is no stupid ding om oor te bid. How many of you have felt that, you know what, you are begging God for such a worldly thing, meanwhile people are really dying in the Ukraine? Jy bid dat jou kind asseblief net partytjie toe genooi word, want dit sal so goed wees vir hulle hart. Asseblief tog kan hulle net genooi word, Here, asseblief, laat hulle net genooi word. And meanwhile, back at the ranch, people are really dying. So you just feel, Lord, forgive me for my selfishness, en vir my wêreldse ingesteldheid. And God says, but I'm interested in your child. I want her to be invited to the party. What do you mean? Is anything too hard for me? Don't you think I can handle the party and Ukraine? Or do you think I can only, okay, Lord, it's Ukraine's turn. Please focus on them now. Okay, so next week, if you have a little spare time, fix net die partytjie. It's not God. Is anything too hard for him? Anything. So if you struggle with an orphan spirit, obviously one of the characteristics will be that you feel as if you are wasting God's time and that you are not his first priority. He will obviously, according to you then, listen to other people's prayers, but not necessarily yours. So you will ask, but not be heard. And if you struggle with an orphan spirit, you will actually believe that God doesn't hear you, that He's not interested. Or you will think maybe you prayed wrong. If you prayed better. Remember, part of the orphan spirit is if you are good, then you will be you'll be blessed this weekend. If you are a good child, then you can get a sweet as well, or you can get pudding as well. You can get dessert. If you are good. So orphan spirit says, I need to be good for God to love me. I need to be better for Him to bless me. So as long as I'm not better, as long as I struggle with certain stuff, God doesn't have the ability to bless me, so it's all my fault. And that means if you look at other people being blessed, you will think, obviously they must be sorted out. That is why God is blessing them. And that's why God is not blessing you. That's orphan spirit. Orphan spirit will make you extremely clingy and needy in relationships, with advice. Your first mindset will not be to turn to God. You will be that very woman who will turn to people and say, will you pray to God for me? Because obviously you have contacts. Obviously He listens to you. Obviously you're not an orphan. You are a real child. So can you please just step in and pray on my behalf? I don't trust my own faith. I don't trust my own relationship. I don't trust my own prayers. How many of you felt that? Come on, ladies. Halfte van julle jok. Because I think we've all had that. Orphan spirit will struggle with the fear of loss. So you will be afraid of death. Because are you ready to die? You won't have a thing that says, Lord, I'm coming home. Whenever I'm coming home, because you don't realize it is your home. So you will struggle with fear of death, fear of loss. Because an orphan spirit carries a lot of hurt and a lot of anger and resentment for not feeling chosen. The orphan spirit will obviously from time to time struggle with rebellion. They will have this thing, you know what, I don't need people. I don't need people and I don't trust people. I don't trust easily. How many of you have had that? I don't trust easily. You hurt me once, it's done. I don't give people second chances. You hurt me once, it's done. That's orphan spirit. Orphan spirit means that I will struggle with performance. I will be so performance driven. Performance driven. If I can get it right to fast. And the minute that you hear other people getting it right, fasting, and you can't even fast for one day from only 2 cups of coffee, then that spirit kicks in and it says, sien jy, you're not committed, you can't do this, you're not good enough, you need to try harder because your breakthrough lies at the other end of your commitment. If you cannot commit, I cannot bless you. See, the thing about a good father means that he knows you and he knows where you're at. Sometimes my one child or my second child or my third one, all of them sometimes at once, will give me attitude. And eendag wil ek hulle snot klap gee and the next day I will give them grace. Why? Because the day that I will give them grace is the day that I know they did terrible at their math test. They weren't invited to the party. The one is having PMS. The one is so afraid of her boyfriend not calling her. So I won't be as tough on her because I have grace, because I know where she's at. And in that split second makes me a great mom. Tomorrow I will miss my daughter's heart and I will be tough on her and I will break her because I won't realize that this girl is going through something really tough. And this is the great thing about having God as your father and knowing that you are his daughter, because he knows where you are at. A lot of women phone me after my divorce. I've had so many women coming up to me and saying, Greta, I caught my husband. Greta, how can you forgive? Greta, can you ever trust again? So I've become the go-to as jou man die draad gespring het. Help net die mense. Okay. Of as jou man porn gekyk het. Greta, my man is die hoofroofkyker, asseblief tog. Help my. Help my net. And I hear a lot of women feeling guilty because the very first advice that they get is you have to forgive them and you have to release them. And I say, stop. God has a grace period to be angry. It's not natural for anyone to say, oh, you cheated on me? Prys die Here. What a brilliant opportunity for me to forgive. Oh, wow, such growth. Can I just anoint you, my hubby, and anoint your penis twice? And just, I'm so happy about this. Oh, wow. It blesses me so. It's not natural. Don't you think God knows that? Jesus wept. He didn't go to the sisters and say, why are you crying? Hoekom huil julle? My magtig, where's your godliness? Where's your trust? Kry julle self reg? Ruk julle self reg? Waar is julle geloof, my magtig? Vas nou. En as jy dit reg kry, sal ek vir Lazarus reg op laat sit. Lazarus, I know that you are dead at the moment. You need to pray. Wherever you are, you need to pray that they get it right. He's dying. I'm warning you. Stop crying. He's dying. Be joyful. The joy of the Lord is your strength. If you can just get it right, he might live. It's not who he is. So here's the question. Where do we get the orphan spirit? Where does it come into our lives? Obviously, it gets into our lives with hurt, trauma, with abandonment, neglect, harsh punishment, words that break you. So I want to challenge you this morning, and I know that it will be an immensely difficult thing for some of you to do, but you need to realize if you don't forgive, you cannot be freed from the orphan spirit. You cannot. And again, you can come up to me with your story and say, Gretha, jy verstaan nie? I do. I've had to forgive many things in my life. Many things. With some, I still struggle. With some, I'm still at the place where I say, God, I know I have to and I want to, but I still cannot. Please bear with me, and please love me, and thank you for loving me, even if I'm struggling. So some days I say, Lord, I know that I've forgiven, but today I'm angry again. And my anger doesn't erase my forgiveness. Because forgiveness doesn't give you memory loss. It's something that needs to be taught in more places. Because people think that if you have really forgiven, that you will have no emotion about what happened. Because you have released her or him or your child or your mom or your dad. And you will not have negative feelings or thinking about it. Because as jy nog kwaad is, het jy dan regtig vergewe? Wie van julle het dit al gehoor? So make this note in your heart. Forgiveness does not give you memory loss. You're not going to suddenly think, I've forgiven my granddad, he molested me at 5, Gretha, and now if I think back on that day, what a blessing. What an opportunity. I must actually thank God for bringing that over my life, because today I can be a vessel that can teach kids, thank you, God, for allowing the molestation. Are you nuts? That wasn't God. We cannot thank him for what the devil did. We can thank him for saving us. We can thank him for protecting us later on. We can thank him. Okay, so here's the thing. Sê maar net ons is besig. It might be the right time to just say that you're not available now. All right. Yeah, let's just switch all our cell phones to silence. I know the works of the enemy, you know, and right at the minute that the lady in front of you needs to really hear something, he might use your cell phone to annoy that very word out of her. And she will miss that opportunity. Okay. So here's the thing. If we think about the characteristics of God, he is truth. He is wisdom. He is grace. He is righteousness. He is love. He is forgiveness. He is always available. He is interested in you. He is whatever else you want to write down. Fatherly characteristics. We know that he's the beginning and the end and all that. I'm talking about as a father. Okay? He's always fair. So where did you learn those characteristics the first time in your life? Where did you experience authority for the first time in your life? Where did you experience discipline for the first time in your life? With your mom and dad, possibly. So your spirit is born and designed to understand love, to understand godliness. But now we are not only spirit, we are human. So, for instance, just an example. Imagine your mom got pregnant when she was 16 with you. So your mom was afraid. She might have carried a lot of shame. She might have carried a lot of loneliness. She might have carried a lot of fear of finances and of what people will think, and humiliation and a helplessness, and I don't know what to do, and I don't know how to handle this baby, and I feel all of those things. All right. So now here you are, the baby. Now your mom is 16 years old. She's totally overwhelmed with what has happened. So in one moment, when you cry for food, she's so overwhelmed because she doesn't have the finances or whatever, and she yells at you, or she leaves you to just cry it out, and she closes the door because I cannot deal with this today. What happens in your little spirit and in your little mind? What happens? I cry and nobody comes. Nobody comes. Maybe, okay, so enters the spirit of orphanhood. Orphan spirit is even if I'm going to cry, nobody's going to come. Nobody's going to care. Maybe you grew up with parents who were very strict, extremely strict. This week I posted a video on my Facebook and on my Instagram and my stories with one of my kids. She's now grade 9, standaard 9, wat standaard 7, for those of you who are agter. Ek weet nie hoe ver agter is Somerset West nie. Do you even have grades here? I don't know. Weet nie eers op watter curriculum werk julle nie. Julle are still with the Transvaal onderwysdepartement seker. I don't know. But anyway. So, I posted a video, I don't know how many of you have seen it, waar sy vir my sê, our generation is so judgmental. And I said, ja, God man, julle is judgmental. And she said, no, Mom, please don't post this and then that because this is so cringe. And I said, no, you posted the very same thing. And when I make a video, the very same video that you do, you say, I'm cringe. Ja, maar mama is oud. Mama kan nie dit doen nie. Moet net nie dit doen nie, dis cringe. Dan sê ek, okay, maar jy doen dit dan. Hoekom is dit nie cringe nie? Want mama is oud. So I've had comments on there, people saying, ja, Gretha, dit klink soos my kind. Oh my word, Gretha, weet wat, my kind sê ook gereeld sulke goeters en wat, en almal lag. But I've had a few comments of, I cannot fathom the disrespect of your child. The arrogance. I would never have spoken to my mother like that. Jy weet, Gretha, ons generasie het pak slaag gekry. Ons het maniere gehad. Dan dink ek, ag sit Tannie, jou kind het nooit met jou gepraat oor haar boyfriend nie. So she had maniere, but she had no relationship with you. So ek sê eerder, laat my kind vir my sê, mama, jy's cringe, maar sy kom met alles na my toe. But some of you was in die lewe ingeklap. Ek gaan vir jou voeter. Ek praat net een keer. Luister vir my baie mooi. Ek sê vir jou klap, jy sal vir 2 weke nie op daai boude van jou kan sit nie. And then I will shame you in front of people, want dan sal ek vir hulle sê, nee Tannie, weet jy hoekom huil sy? Want sy kan haarself nie gedra nie. Dit was party van julle se discipline. Am I right? So you chose to be obedient out of fear. What does the orphan spirit do? If I'm obedient, then God will not punish me. Because that was what your parents did. They taught you how to stay out of trouble. And meanwhile, back at the ranch in grade 10, het jy daai ouetjie gevry agter die paviljoen en het jou titie gevryf. And your parents didn't know about it. They didn't know about it. Because of harsh discipline, listen to this. Because of harsh discipline, some of you have learned, listen to this is a powerful thing to say, and some of you are still doing it today. Because of harsh discipline and your understanding of punishment and what will happen if you step over the line, some of you have learned to negotiate with sin, and you see how far you can sin before you are out of God's will. So some of you will go out for a night and have a gin or another one and another one and another one, and you're somewhere in the back of your mind, you will say, weet jy wat, ek moenie meer as 4 nie. Not because of drunkenness, maar dis nie meer reg nie. Because you will try and sidestep discipline because you are trying to dodge punishment. Is it so? This is a trade of the generation today. Let's push the boundaries and see how far we can sin, whereas if we understand the holiness of God, we will say, how far can I stay away from it? Maar hoe ver kan ons gaan, sodat ek net dissipline kan mis? Party van julle sit vandag hier, listen to me carefully. Because I know what women ask me nowadays. Al die geskeie tannies. I've had mails saying, Gretha, welcome to our tribe. I'm like, I didn't know we were a tribe. I didn't know that. Welcome to the tribe. Do we have like a flag? Do we have a song? It's raining men. Help ons Here, it's hell raining men. Help ons Here, it's rain. We don't want the men raining down. So some of the women, let me just explain to you in a practical way. Some women will come to me and say, Gretha, you know what, I met this man, and you know what, Gretha, I've never thought that I will meet someone again after my hard road with my ex-husband. So you know what, Gretha, he took me and my kids in, and he said that he will provide for us and whatever. En nou patla, julle saam in 'n bed. Want Gretha, ons is nie kinders nie. And Gretha, you know what? He's not 16 anymore. You know what? We are all grown. Maar die Sondag wil jy jou heilige handjies, wat net gisterand vir pappa gestreel het, wil jy daai selfe heilige handjie in die lug sit? I hope you washed your hands. Especially when they kill the lights in the sermon and they put on fluorescent, remember, semen raak pers. I'm telling you, they're all going to see the semen on your hands. I hope you washed your hands. Okay, yeah. All right, let's stop there. Let's stop. Kom ons stop net daar. Now listen. So maybe one of the things that you had as a child, not necessarily from your parents, maybe it was from another authority figure, from teachers, your coach. You will be disciplined if. And this is today the thing that you believe about God. So in your mind, you know, I am a daughter. I hear that I'm a daughter, but I still need to sidestep discipline. So I can just push the boundary to sidestep the discipline. That's orphan spirit. Maybe your parents, after they gave you bakslaw or timeout or took your toys away or whatever, maybe they said, maybe you went and you said, Mom, kan ek op mama se skoot sit? And she said, nee, jy wil mos stout wees. Maar dit is nadat jy bakslaw gekry het. Now you learn about the fact that God forgives you and He has grace, but you've never seen it in action. Because you know, after punishment, there will be a season when you still have to bleed until they feel better. We don't realize that this has given us orphan spirit. Maak dit sin? Maybe you grew up in a home where everything was about what other people thought. Julle die mense kom kyk, maak net netjies, maak netjies, maak netjies, maak netjies. Almal van julle gaan maak reg julle kamers. Aletta said amen, image driven, and therefore she became the whiff Macy of image. Verstaan jy? Maybe your business is rooted in hurt. Ek sal vir jou bid. Bring jou ma. Vergewe haar vandag, Aletta. Vergewe haar vandag. No, but really, think about it. Everything is image driven. Wat mense gaan dink. Your mom, she was insistent on you doing your project better, want wat gaan die juffrou dink? As jy die goed net so plak, maak 'n rampie. What will the teachers think? Did you give the 20 rand for the photos today? I told the teacher that I will send it. Wat gaan die juffrou nou van my dink? Image driven, performance driven. Maybe you were at that end where, you know what, when you got the trophy, dan het jou ma al die foto's geneem. That was incredible. Maybe you're the one, you were that athlete that you were second, but like a split second over the line. And your mom was that one, or your dad was that one. He would turn the world and the whole field around. He would say, jy was nie tweede nie. Ek gaan dit nie daar los nie. Ek het dit op kamera. En almal hier het gesien, jy was eerste. And there you stand with your silver, and you just want them to be proud for one split second, but what do you hear? Unless it's gold, I will fight for it. So what do you learn as a child? If I don't get the trophy, if I don't get gold, if I don't get the A, if I don't get with my C, if I don't get the bulky, if I don't get that, my mom and my dad will not be as proud. Maybe you grew up in a home where you were blessed or not blessed with a lot of siblings that were great at sport or academics, the achievers. Die prestasiehasies, and you were average. Jou sussie het alfa wiskunde gehad. En jy was 'n geletskind. Your sister or your brother, jy weet hulle was hoofmeisie en jy was glad nie gekies nie. The teachers never called you on your own name. They said, jy's mos Johan se sussie. Do we realize what that does to our identity? I'm only noticed for my brother's achievement. I'm only known for who my dad is. I'm only ever applauded in class if I get something right. Maar as ek die klas uitvee, kry ek geen balkie nie. So I have to perform to be acknowledged. That's orphan spirit. I don't really belong. I don't really belong. I'm not acknowledged unless. So now maybe in church, you are desperate to just do something for the kingdom. Vir 7 jaar staan jy al in flyers uitdeel. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's so great. But maybe if you struggle with orphan spirit, now jy doen al die flyers. But now the pastor or the dominee, they come onto the stage or onto the pulpit and hulle sê, hoorie, ons wil net baie dankie sê vir almal wat hierdie so mooi gemaak het. Almal wat so mooi gebak het vir die koek en tee. Hoorie, kan ons net almal wat gebak het hier voorkry? Al die gasvrouens, laat hulle net opstaan. It's okay, I won't be called to the front, want ek het net flyers uitgedeel. You see, if you don't battle with orphan spirit, then you will say, oh, that's fine, praise die Here, ek hoef nie gebak het nie. But if you struggle with orphan spirit, it will hurt you immensely. Jy sal later uit 'n kerk uitgaan, because you know what, Gretha, the church, they've hurt me so badly. I'm never acknowledged unless I do this and that. Let me tell you about my own thing about rejection. I grew up in a house with 4 siblings. My older sister, me, my brother, and my younger sister. Okay. So my older sister, she was very, very weird. Like, very weird. Like, top of the range weird. Nie al lette weird nie. Baie weirder. Baie weirder. When she was in high school, she would literally go to the hardware store. And buy herself koper ketangs. And she would wear that. She would go to antique stores and buy ou sleutels. En dit sal haar goeders gewees het. She's a teacher now. She's a whack, crazy, brilliant teacher. The kids love her. Sy's mal. So every time we go to visit, my kids have like this wetenskap. Wat se klere is Tannie Lise se hare nou alles? Because she doesn't have like a purple string, like pink borskanker maandryf. Nee. Daai whack vrou, sy het groen en rooi en geel en pers en pink. En dan is hierdie kant afgeskeer en hierdie kant is lank. And she's married to a boer wat net kakie dra. And they've been married 30 years now, and they're a brilliant family. Verstaan, dit is soos mal. This is how, Lord, how? Okay. So she goes to the beach, and then she does her nails met gewone naalak, and she dips it into the sand by accident. It's not dry yet, and then she says, "Dit lyk eintlik mooi." And then she takes sand home to do it again when she comes to the farm. Seesand in haar naalak. So sy's mal. So she was always introduced as, hierdie is my weerkind, verskoon haar maar. Okay? But in her weirdness, she got to be with Maisie, and she was like the president verkenner, voortrekker, Lord knows what all those things mean, maar sy kon knope maak en spore sny en, okay. She could do all of that. Okay. My brother, he's a genius. Like on the spectrum, like sy IQ is just off the charts. Verstaan jy? Hy's baie slim. And he's brilliant. He's a brilliant musician. Brilliant. So when I wanted to play the guitar, when I was like 5 or 6 years old, before I went to school, I would play nie ek lieg. Hy was 4 or 5. So I was like 9 or 10. So I would go for classes. Kling, kling, kling. And I would get home that afternoon and he would play. Dis maklik man. Toe besluit ek gitaar se gehad, ek gaan klavier leer. Ta 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 ta. And that afternoon I would come home and he would have both hands. Ta 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 ta. And I'm like, wie's jy? In grade 8, the University of Pretoria, he was grade 8, he was 13, 14 years old. They invited him to the music department to show them on piano how to take normal music and jazzify it. Hy gaan toe hy 12 jaar oud is, saam met die polisieorkes Namibië toe, en hy speel eintlik klavier vir die orkes, maar die concertina-speler broke his hand when they arrived there. So he said he will try it. He played the concertina on that tour, and he was given the prize for the best concertina player on the freaking tour. It's like mal. Like my younger sister, she could sing an audience quiet. To this day, as mense vir my vra, Gretha, is Jana jou sissie? Nee, sy het ons altyd so gesing. Nee? Okay, so, sy was net, sy's kinders op skool het al Celine Dion genoem. Verstaan jy, dis is, nee. Mariah Carey, Celine Dion, en dan is almal stil. So almal het hierdie goeters. En hier's Gretha. The only thing my mom ever said about me. My kind, jy's nie deur 'n trompet gebore nie. Praat sagter. That was literally the thing that my mom said about me. Okay? I was fairly opinionated. The other thing that my mom always told me, jy sal eendag 'n man moet kry wat jou gaan moet klap om jou in lyn te hou. And then I did. So here's the thing about orphan spirit. And hear my heart. Please just hear my heart. This is not out of a place of anything other than just hearing my heart. So after school, ek het onderhoofmeisie geword, nie soos my sussie hoofmeisie nie. Verstaan jy? My sussie was die solo sanger van die universiteitskoor. Ek was net in die universiteitskoor. Verstaan jy? Sy was presidentsverkenner, ek was net 'n voortrekker. Verstaan julle? Okay, ek was daarom hoofdirigent, prys die Here. Okay, goed. So listen how this works. Listen how this works. So I started studying because I really loved academics. So I started studying, and it ended up me studying different grades at the University of Pretoria for 12 and a half years. I was longer at the university than I was at school. Swat geloof. Tot vandag toe ek love swat. Ek raak opgewonde oor my kinders se afbakening. Okay. So one day, my youngest sister sits at her baby shower of her youngest. Ek het al 4 kinders. I've had my own successes. My ma is nou baie trots op my. My boetie en sissie, they joke about me. I'm the sissy with the fun. I'm the sister with a surname, because my mom goes like this. This is my daughter Lisa, and this is Jana, and this is Janis, and this is of course my daughter Gretha Wiid. So ek is nou die sissie met die fun. Okay, so I have arrived. A little bit late in life, but I have arrived. Ek is nou die trompet wat 'n geluid maak. Okay, welcome to the band. And so we sat there, and my oma, who was 93 years old at the time, or 90 years old at the time, she died at 93, she sat there and she took out this paper and she said, kyk wat het Oumi gekry. And she gave this paper and she said, Gretchie, ouma dink jy het dit vir ouma geskryf. So she had this letter that I wrote her when I was in grade 1. And she gave me the letter and ek sit daar en ek sê vir my ma, yes, ek het mooi geskryf. And the next minute my mom says, ja, jy het baie mooi geskryf, maar kyk, nie so mooi soos Boeta nie. And there I sit with 5 degrees behind my name, the sissy with the fun, with a huge following on social media. Gretha Wiid for Pete's sake, being in the huisgenoot numerous times for all the wrong reasons. And the next minute, dit voel soos 'n dolk deur my hart. Ek staan op en ek sê, hoorie, ek kom nou. En ek loop. And I go to the chalet where we stayed for the weekend. And I bawled my eyes out. So Franso came up to me and he said, wat's fout met jou? Ek sê, my boetie het mooier geskryf as ek. And he says, "Wat? Ek sê my boetie het mooier geskryf as ek." And he says, "Who cares?" Ek sê, "Ek gee om. Ek gee om. Ek is altyd net die trompet. Ek is altyd net daai ene. Kan ek nie net ook die hoofsanger wees nie? Kan ek net?" Hy kyk my so, hy sê, "Jy's Gretha Wiid." Ek sê, "Maar ek het nie die mooiste geskryf nie." Orphan spirit. Not good enough. So you will choose performance, you will choose all the accolades, you will choose to succeed, you will drive yourself so hard, but unless you get to the point where you really realize that God says He is your Father, He doesn't need your accolades. He doesn't care whether you are the trumpet, whether you are the head girl. He's not bothered by who your siblings are. Hy is nie gepla oor daai goeders nie. And unless you get to the point where you realize if your parents got it wrong, if your parents got it wrong out of their own hurt, out of their own inability, out of their own insecurity, whatever, unless you release them, unless you forgive them, unless you get to the point where you say, "Lord, my identity is not in what is written about me, not in what is said about me. My identity is in the fact that I'm your daughter and you are my father. My identity is only in that." Unless you get to that point, my sissy, you will be hurt by the fact that the kerk kyk oor jou omdat jy pamfletjies uitdeel. You will be hurt if your husband looks at another woman because your orphan spirit will say, "Sien jy, ek is te dik." Elke ding sal gechannel word through rejection. Elke ding, everything will be channeled through fear. Everything will be channeled through insecurity. Everything will be channeled through rebellion. Everything will be channeled. En ek beloof jou vandag, my sissa, if you don't deal with that and get your identity right and really realize that you are more than what people say and what people think and what you've done and what you haven't received and what you haven't achieved. If you don't realize that, sal jy aanhou met hierdie storie. You will keep on and you will sit eendag 80 and you will be bitter and gatvol en jy sal sê, "Weet jy wat, my kinders kom kuier nie eers by my nie. Ek was ook net goed vir een ding. Jy weet, Gretha het hier uitgekom en toe los hulle my." Unless you deal with that.